So most of the research that's been done on asexuality has recruited participants from AVEN, which is the Asexuality Visibility and Education Network, essentially the largest online community of asexuals. And although that's been really helpful for researchers because there's a large and eager pool of asexual individuals who want to participate in research, it also introduces a bias because maybe individuals who are already in that online community are better adjusted, they've come out as identifying as asexual, they have a community of friends and therefore feel supported. But the question is, are there individuals who don't belong to an online community, who are asexual, who are not being included in our research? So there's a real need for developing a validated measure, a tool that can accurately measure asexuality that doesn't depend on someone's self-report of having come out and identified as being asexual. So the process of developing the measure involved a series of stages. In the early stages, what we did was we went to a large group of identified asexuals and asked them to describe asexuality in their own words. And so we used this narrative, these kind of qualitative phrases, as the basis for developing some items. So we came up with an initial item pool of about 100 different items. So things like, I'm not attracted to others, it doesn't bother me that I lack sexual attraction. When friends talk about being turned on by seeing someone attractive, I can't relate, etc., etc. About 100 different items like that. And we then administered this very, very long battery to a group of individuals who identified as asexual as well as self-identified sexual individuals, both gay and straight. And from that point, we then carried out a series of statistical techniques using factor analysis to parse down the items. And that continued for 2 more stages until we ended up with a final item list of 12 items. And we then administered that final 12-item battery to a different group of both sexual and asexual individuals to take a look at how well this final item predicted the asexual versus the sexual group of individuals. So we examined both sensitivity and specificity and found that our measure could accurately predict 95% of the asexuals. We also were able to come up with a cutoff score on this measure that told us with a fair degree of specificity and sensitivity that if an individual scored within a certain range, that there was a high likelihood that they were asexual, versus if they scored below that cutoff score, there was a high likelihood that they were not asexual, or sexual in other words. Yeah. So I think that the most logical place of uptake would be among other researchers who are studying asexuality, and our measure is freely available. It's in the public domain. We encourage other researchers to use this measure in their research. Also, it's a method of providing some tests of reliability to see how much agreement there is between our recruited samples and other recruited samples. So I think it'll be a big boost to research in general on asexuality. Now with this measure that's been validated, it's available to other researchers to use in their own studies, where you can recruit from a population-based level. You don't necessarily have to go to identified asexual communities to recruit people. In fact, you can use this measure as a way of classifying your research participants into the asexual group versus the non-asexual group. Down the road, are there any other ways that this measure can be used? Possibly. Could it be used in, say, more of a clinical setting where a clinician is trying to make that determination, is this person asexual versus is this a sexual person with a low desire? I think there's several steps that we need to go through in order to get there, but there's certainly potential that a measure like this might be used in that kind of a clinical setting.